and welcome to Freewave TV. I'm Paige Friedman, bringing you the latest in maritime news from around the world. Today in maritime news, truckers return to work in South Korea after 8-day strike ends. A Belgian port braces for a strike that's set to start next week. The Biden administration promises to work with the Los Angeles port to clear backlog. Port of Vancouver sets new date to roll out a program. A reinsurer company estimates cost of insurance claim for last year's container ship grounding. The United Kingdom launches a new shipping company. Mediterranean Shipping Company puts in a bid for world's largest cruise port operator. Crystal Cruises' 2 detained ships sold to new owners. After over a week of protesting, the Truckers Union and the Transport Ministry in South Korea finally reached an agreement. Wednesday morning, truckers returned to work after they were on strike for 8 days. The union and ministry came to terms on their 5th round of negotiations, and one of the big terms that will benefit truckers is an extension of a minimum wage program created during the pandemic that was going to expire in December. As the truckers get back to the roads, South Korea is going to be working hard to restore its economy that was hit hard during the strikes, with an estimated $1.2 billion lost in deliveries and output. Meanwhile, in Belgium, the port of Antwerp-Bruges is preparing for another strike. The strike is scheduled to happen on Monday, and trade unions are asking for better pay, better social dialogue, and investment in the public sector. The port, which is one of the largest in Europe, is dealing with unseasonably high congestion during this peak season, and it will probably increase during the strike. Over in the United States, the Biden administration has promised to work with the Port of Los Angeles to clear the rail cargo backlog. Right now, there are over 29,000 containers waiting to be transported via rail at the port. However, the port says that the congestion is only related to rail transport at this time. The port will need to get the backlog cleared, as they are expected to receive a large number of containers from China following the Chinese COVID lockdowns. President Joe Biden visited the port on June 10th, and his administration has promised that it will attempt to help the port with the traffic jam that it has been plagued with since last year. In Canada, the Port of Vancouver will finally be starting a program after it was delayed for months. The Rolling Truck Age program, which was originally planned to begin on February 1st of this year, is now scheduled to go into effect on September 15th. Under the plan, trucks older than 12 years old will not be allowed to enter the port. The program's start date had to be pushed back so that they could come up with a revised plan after there was a lot of discontent over the original plan, where the truck's age couldn't exceed 10 years old. The port released a statement saying that it will still achieve program objectives and benefits while balancing feedback and commercial interests of industry. When the Ever Given went aground in the Suez Canal in March 2021 and blocked the canal for 6 days, it became the most significant shipping incident in years. Now, over a year later, French reinsurer SCOR now estimates the container ship's insurance claims will be over $2 billion. SCOR also estimates that some 400 ships were blocked as a result of the grounding, while a number of other vessels chose to go a different route altogether. In other news, DKT Allseas has officially brought in a new shipping company. The UK-based shipping agent this week launched its own shipping company, Allseas Shipping Company. Previously, the company had been running its China Express service for 17 months, and connections that linked Bangladesh to Europe. This week, the company introduced new routes, which have calls in Genoa, Valencia, East India, Vietnam, Cambodia, as well as trans-Pacific routes to the United States and Canada. The Mediterranean Shipping Company keeps looking to expand. The company has now placed a bid to take over the world's largest cruise port operator, Global Ports Holding. With talks continuing, the shipping company will need to make a firm offer by July 13th. MSC is the world's largest container line and is also the world's 3rd largest cruise line. The 2 Crystal cruise ships that have been detained in the Bahamas since February over unpaid fuel bills have officially been sold. The ships were seized by U.S. officials in the Bahamas after Petroleum Peninsula Far East secured a warrant against Crystal Cruises and Star Cruises, both of which were owned by Genting Hong Kong. The Supreme Court in the Bahamas completed the sale of the Crystal Symphony and the Crystal Serenity on Tuesday after receiving and accepting bids for the ships. The Crystal Symphony was sold for $25 million, while the Crystal Serenity was sold for $103 million. Genting filed for bankruptcy in January 2022, and since then its assets have been sold off during the liquidation process. And now, here's the news making headlines around the world. Two U.S. citizens, Alexander Druk and Andy Hun, who went to Ukraine as volunteer fighters against Russian forces, have been missing for a week and are now feared to have been captured. Their family members addressed the public on Wednesday alongside the United States State Department, saying that reports of the two having been taken as prisoners of war by Russia are still unconfirmed. Today in Kyiv, the leaders of France, Germany, and Italy visited Ukraine after receiving criticism for acting too cautious by the city. Their act of solidarity demonstrates unity and support as Ukraine continues to ask for further defense equipment. This act follows Wednesday's announcement from United States President Joe Biden about a fresh U.S. infusion of $1 billion in weapons for Ukraine that includes anti-ship rocket systems, artillery rockets, howitzers, and ammunition. A falling fuel supply for a second time via the Nord Stream 1 pipeline follows Europe's acts that were deliberately against Russia. Moscow said that the shortage would worsen as more delays in repairs could lead to suspending all flows, putting a brake on Europe's race to refill its gas inventories. The latest acts by Russia cuts the European supply to just 40% of the pipeline's capacity. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said reductions in supply were not premeditated and related to maintenance issues. After having a second phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi has reaffirmed his country's support for Russia as he described the conversation as warm and friendly. Both leaders are alleged to have agreed that Sino-Russian relations are at an unprecedentedly high level and that they intend to strengthen ties in the energy, finance, and industry sectors. The Kremlin described their talk by saying that Xi had noted the legitimacy of Russian actions in the face of challenges to its security created by external forces. The city of Beijing is celebrating this Thursday as it declared an initial victory in its latest battle with COVID-19 after pinpointing a COVID-19 hotspot at a 24-hour bar. Restrictions have been in place for around a month in Beijing to tackle a broader outbreak that began in late April. This past week, thousands were placed in quarantine and millions were mandated to take mass testing. In an ironic twist of fate, North Korea reported an outbreak of an unidentified intestinal epidemic in a farming region on Thursday as it continues to struggle to contain the current influx of COVID-19 cases while also facing chronic food shortages. After receiving word from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un Wednesday night, an official at South Korea's Unification Ministry handling inter-Korean affairs said the outbreak is suspected to be cholera or typhoid. Over in northern India, police were forced to fire the weapons as a warning, and authorities shut off mobile internet signals in at least one district to calm whining protests against a new military recruitment system. According to video footage from Ani, 50 kilometers south of New Delhi, crowds were hurling stones at a government official's house. Officials also said that some protesters set a BJP office on fire in Nawada City, attacked railway infrastructure, and blocked roads as demonstrations spread across several parts of the country. There was no immediate information on any casualties. Today in Sydney, residents were urged to conserve energy by avoiding using any unnecessary energy. As worldwide blackouts continue to be expected globally this summer, Chris Bowen, the Climate Change and Energy Minister, said that he was confident their country wouldn't face blackouts if citizens shut off certain items from 6 to 8 p.m. In a nighttime assault in northern Syria, U.S.-led coalition troops claimed to have seized a senior leader of the jihadist group Islamic State. Officials told U.S. media that he was named Hani Ahmed al-Kurdi. The man was said to have been an experienced bomb maker and operational facilitator. The coalition said his mission was meticulously planned to minimize the risk of collateral damage of civilian harm. It's unknown if any innocent people were injured during the attack. As U.S. President Joe Biden is set to go on a widely criticized visit to Saudi Arabia next month, the CIA confirmed Jamal Khashoggi was assassinated and dismembered on the instructions of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Khashoggi was a Saudi journalist, dissident, and novelist. Today, the local council renamed the street in front of the Saudi embassy in Washington, D.C., Jamal Khashoggi Way. In Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, Nigeria's main oppositional presidential candidate, picked State Governor Ifeanyi Akawa as his running mate for the February 2023 election. Political parties in Nigeria have until Friday to submit the names of their presidential candidates and running mates. We're now going to take it over to Jean-Louis, who's going to share what's going on in the sports world.
It is June 16th, 2022, and you're kicking it with Jean-Louis of Freewave TV. From the States to across the pond, here are your sports stories of today. The schedule for the Premier League has been released, with many feature games on tap for opening day. The notable games include Crystal Palace and Arsenal, Everton and Chelsea, Fulham taking on title favorites Liverpool, and the defending champs Manchester City facing West Ham United. The season will begin in August, carrying through to the end of the year, including a mid-season break from November's World Cup in Qatar. On the women's side, teams are also gearing up for next month's upcoming tourney. However, one team will give it a go without a familiar face. Ex-captain Steph Houghton was omitted from England's final 23-woman roster for the tourney. The centre-back has not suited up since January due to an Achilles injury. When asked about the decision, manager Serena Weigman stated that while a tough decision, the 34-year-old was not ready for competition. The Women's Euro tournament will emanate from Wembley Stadium, taking place from July 6th through to the 31st. Till then, her team will be working out the kinks today, as their most notable game on tap in football today is England's friendly against Belgium, taking place at 3 p.m. Eastern. Now in cricket, the case of Yorkshire has revived itself amid the news that the ECB, the English cricket's governing body, has pressed charges against a number of individuals tied to the racist allegations within the club. Now, the news was initially brought to light back in 2020 when Asim Rafiq, a former player for the club, made mention to suicidal thoughts due to verbal and physical acts of racism by players and staff. Now, since that time, over a dozen staff members have left the team amid the controversy ensuing, with many players speaking out on the matter. Now, in response to the latest news, the cricket club stated that they will, quote, need the cooperation of those in position during his time in order to fully consider and respond to the matters raised. Now we take a pause from cricket to hop over to hockey, where Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals is set and done. After jumping out to a first period 3-1 lead, the Colorado Avalanche won a 4-3 victory over the Tampa Bay Lightning. Game 2 is Saturday, where the defending champs look to recover from their comeback loss. In the MLB, we had many storylines on display, from the Yankees taking down the Rays, the Brewers slowing down the Mets, and the Padres blowing out the Cubs. But the story of baseball has been the Atlanta Braves. Yes, the Atlanta Braves. After an 8-2 win over the Nationals, the Braves won 14 straight, leapfrogging into second in the NL East, firmly behind the Mets in the standings. They start their series with the Cubs tomorrow afternoon at 2. Now tonight sees the NBA Finals, in which we may see the grand finale, as the Warriors, looking for their illustrious 4th title in 8 years, will face the Boston Celtics. Now the Celtics, tied with the Lakers for the all-time title record, look to stave off elimination. It all happens tonight at 8 on ABC. Stay tuned to that. From previews to live scores, first we go back to cricket, where Sri Lanka and Australia are currently in action. Australia, already up 1-0 in the series, are currently 21-0, needing 191 runs and 39 overs to win. Just tipping off is Bangladesh and the West Indies. As the West Indies yet to bat, Bangladesh is currently 28-3 with 10.3 overs through the first. And lastly, in golf, the first round of the U.S. Open is currently underway, as Rory McIlroy started early and often, having a strong start and early going. He currently is tied for second place, as currently Americans Matthew Neesmith, Colin Morikawa, and Stuart Hagstead are tied atop first at the board. For more on this and all things Freewave Sports, check out our socials as well as freewavetv.com. Otherwise, I'm Jean-Louis, and that's your news. Happy Father's Day, and take care.
Thanks for joining us today. For more detailed news, you can visit our website, www.freewavetv.com. On behalf of all of us here at Freewave TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you our next newscast next week.